welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so please subscribe. But here's where we'll start. So I've been doing a breakdown of all the divisions before the season starts. We're pretty much about 3.5 weeks away until the regular season starts, and I just got finished with the AFC. So go watch my previous 4 episodes if you want to go figure out how I feel about the AFC. So this week, or this episode, I guess you can say, I'm starting with the NFC, and I think I should start with the NFC South, because when you really look at the NFC South, it is it's like the it's like the division that was, you know what I mean? Like outside of Tampa Bay, and we'll talk about them in a second. It's crazy where this division was. Just think 5 or 6 years ago, man. You had the Saints had one of the best teams, of course, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, which is Drew Brees, one of the most accurate quarterbacks, if not the most accurate quarterback of all time, breaking all the records for the Saints. The Saints were always Super Bowl contenders. You go to the Carolina Panthers, being led by Cam Newton. Of course, they went 15-1, went all the way to the Super Bowl, had an incredible defense with Luke Kuechly, Davis. You had Atlanta Falcons just, a year or two after that, they make it to the Super Bowl. You have Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. Like, it's crazy when you look at the NFC South. Hell, even let's talk about Tampa Bay for a second, bro. Like, even a couple years ago, yes, Jameis was throwing 1,001 touchdowns, but he was also throwing 1,001 picks. It was the franchise that just can't get right. You know what I mean? Like, this division is just so crazy when you think about it, and it's crazy because of where it comes from to where it is now. And let's start with the New Orleans Saints, because the New Orleans Saints, in my opinion, have the biggest question mark. And I say the biggest question mark because we're so used to one thing with the Saints. Now, for people that don't remember the Saints before Drew Brees, the Saints were god awful. The Saints were one of the worst franchises in sports history before Drew Brees got there. And then when Drew Brees got there, and of course, as he aged in the league and as he got better and better, they became one of the premier franchises in the NFL. Hell, he led them to a Super Bowl. You know, him, Mark Colston. It was. Of course, after Katrina and the city needed something to pretty much cling on to, and of course they had Drew and the Saints. And I say the Saints probably the biggest question mark because, as we know, Drew Brees retired last season, and this will be the first season since Drew Brees has been there that it's going to be another quarterback that pretty much is at the helm for this team. Now, of course, there have been times where there has been another quarterback, but that's either due to Drew Brees getting hurt or Drew Brees getting hurt. Because Drew Brees wasn't like that to miss time unless he was injured. So this will be the first time. And then, of course, we don't know who it's going to be. It's either going to be Taysom Hill or it's going to be Jameis Winston. Let me first say this. I understand the love that Sean Payton, who was the coach, I understand the love that he has for Taysom Hill. I mean, you draft him. Taysom Hill is an incredible athlete. Taysom Hill. Let me first give credit to Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is an incredible athlete. You can line him up. He can run some running back packages. He can run some tight end packages. He can run some receiver packages. He's good. Like, He's a good as a wildcat. Like, Taysom Hill is an incredible athlete. I will never take that away from Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, he's like a jack of all trades. You know what he is? He's like what Tim Tebow thought he would be. And yes, that's a shot at Tim Tebow. But Taysom Hill is who Tim Tebow thought he was going to be. Taysom Hill is just incredible at being an athlete. Now, with that being said, is Taysom Hill a quarterback? Not really. He can throw the ball. He has a strong arm, but he's not really a quarterback. So the fact that there is a quarterback battle in New Orleans is crazy to me. Well, it's not crazy, but it's crazy at the same time. I understand when we think about New Orleans, and it's a very pass heavy scheme. It's also, it's one of those. It's kind of like New England, but not to the same level as far as it's a very complicated offense. It's a very complicated offense to learn. And the last thing you want to do is throw in a quarterback that isn't ready, because if not, because this offense is so tough to learn and tough to figure out, you can get left behind quick. And of course, in the NFC South, usually the last thing you want to do is start off slow, because either you'll have the Panthers coming or you have Atlanta. But the reason why I don't understand why there's still a quarterback battle is because Jameis Winston's been there for a year and a half, 2 years now, which gives them enough time to learn the system. I understand Taysom Hill has been there longer, but I think Taysom Hill has only thrown 1 or 2 touchdowns in his career compared to Jameis Winston, who a year ago he threw like 30 touchdowns to 30 interceptions. So that's one question that the Saints have, is who's going to be their quarterback. And honestly, I believe it should be Jameis Winston. I think if you really want a traditional type quarterback and an actual quarterback, I will go with Jameis. We understand that Jameis is not the best when it comes to decision making. That is reminiscent. He's an incredible talent. Let me say that. Jameis Winston is an incredible talent. However, we remember he had 30 touchdowns to 30 interceptions. I think that was the most interceptions in a season, or like second most or something like that. Now, of course, Jameis Winston has had, eye surgery, so that could definitely improve and change. He's had time to get, I think, with a new coach as in Sean Payton, a more offensive coach, getting out of Tampa Bay, that definitely probably helped him. Needed to change his scenery. So we don't know how Jameis Winston is going to be. Now, if the preseason game to the Saints was preseason game to Baltimore was any recollection of how the Saints season is going to go, it's not looking good, bro. It's not looking good at all, man. Because again, I know it's just a preseason. The starters pretty much only play maybe a drive or two for both teams, but you're in a quarterback battle, man. And it's not just it wasn't just Jameis Winston. Don't think I'm just piling on Jameis Winston. This is the entire team. The team looked bad. Of course, Jameis Winston did have a touchdown pass. There were some plays where they looked good, but that was few and far between. It was just an ugly game. But I'm just gonna chalk that up to the preseason. So that's one thing we need to figure out, is who is going to be the quarterback. Again, I believe it's Jameis Winston, but if it's not Jameis Winston, say they do go with Taysom Hill, and knowing Sean Payton, he might really pretty much give him 50-50, as far as you might get 50% of the plays to Jameis, 50% to Taysom Hill. I don't believe that's an effective way, but I'm not an NFL coach. But if whatever quarterback you run, or whatever quarterback is the starter, the approach to the game is different. And I say that to say, Jameis Winston is more, like I said, he's a quarterback. He's a better thrower. He's more of a pocket thrower, pocket passer. And there's schemes that you really shouldn't run with Jameis. Like you don't, he can run with the ball, but he's not really the most mobile quarterback. So you don't really want to run wildcat packages. You don't really want to run, you don't really want Jameis Winston out of the pocket. That's not what you want. And then you don't really want you don't really do run pass options, because he's not really a threat to run the ball. Taysom Hill, on the other hand, that's all you really want to do is run pass option, because you have Taysom, because you have Alvin Kamara, you have some of the offensive weapons at your disposal. Like you have Kevin White, and of course we'll talk about Mike Thomas in a second. But the last thing you want, like, you're gonna have to figure out who is gonna be a starter and how you're gonna do this, and that's why I said you don't really want to 50-50 this. You don't, because like I said, Taysom, you hear Sean Payton say all the time, "Oh, Taysom Hill is gonna get a lot of runs." Like, look, these two are not. Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill are completely different quarterbacks. It's kind of like, to a lesser extent, but it's kind of like New England. You can't if you have Mac Jones starting and you have Cam Newton starting, you can't run this. Those are two completely different quarterbacks. Mac Jones is a more accurate pocket passer. Cam Newton is more of a mobile quarterback that can make better plays because of his ability to not only run the ball, but his arm strength and get the ball downfield. So Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, they're completely different players, man. Taysom Hill, like I said, is more of the athlete. He's not really a quarterback, but he can give you more run options. He can give you more options as far as the run pass option. Jameis Winston, he's more of a pocket passer, but of course he's more of the quarterback. So again, they need to figure out what they're going to do with what they're going to do at the starting quarterback position. Another thing they need to figure out, of course, is how much are they going to use Alvin Kamara? And I say that to say they're probably, because this is a new age, the Saints the Saints MO has usually been pass first, pass second, pass third. Like, it's a pass first team. They will pass your head off. But they could do that. They could do that because you have one of the most accurate quarterbacks of all time, which is Drew Brees. I mean, he has damn near every record, or at least top 3 in every record in passing in NFL history. So, of course, they're going to pass the ball a lot. However, like I said, this is a new look offense. This is a new look Saints. Do you really want to pass that much? Especially, and again, we'll talk about it in a second, but especially with the Mike Thomas situation looming over. Like, I understand you have Quantrell Smith. I mean, but outside of Michael Thomas, you don't really. I mean, you have Tommy Lee Lewis, but you don't really have a reliable number one outside of Michael Thomas. So, how are you going to lead? And we'll talk about the Carolina Panthers in a second, but are they going to make the Are they going to revolve the offense sort of around Alvin Kamara, like the Panthers are doing with, or have done with Christian McCaffrey? I think it's very interesting to see the first few games what the Saints do, because knowing Sean Payton, he's an offensive wizard, and he's one of the best offensive coaches in NFL history. So of course he's going to, run some good schemes and everything. But I'm really interested to see how they use Alvin Kamara now. Is Alvin Kamara going to be more of a focal point of offense? Now, he's been the focal, a big part of the offense because, I mean, it's Alvin Kamara. He's one of the best backs in the league. But you don't really have the quarterback position to lean on like you used to. If Alvin Kamara is not having a good day, of course you still have Drew Brees lighting people up. But Jameis Winston, on his best day, Jameis Winston can give you 450-yard game, but he'll also give you 4 touchdowns to 4 picks, and 2 of them picks can be pick sixes. So you never really know what's happening with Jameis Winston. So again, it's like, what are we going to see from Alvin Kamara? I think that this is a big year for him. This is a big year for Sean Payton. This is a big year for, of course, the quarterback position, and this is a big year for just the organization because this is new. This is something that they haven't seen since Drew Brees has been there, and he's not there anymore. So I'm interested to see how they use. I think that they need to revolve, or they need to build this team around Alvin Kamara now. I don't think that you can rely on it, even on his best day. You can't really rely on a Jameis Winston. You can't really rely on Taysom Hill because he's not really a quarterback, but he's an incredible athlete, not a quarterback. I know I keep saying that, but I just want to drill that into you guys' head. He's not a real quarterback. He is an athlete. So I think because you have all these question marks and because you really don't know about the quarterback position, I think you really need to build this offense around Alvin Kamara. And it goes to my next point, which is the Michael Thomas situation. I already talked about this on a previous episode, but for people that didn't watch, people that don't know, Michael Thomas is kind of going, him and the Saints kind of are kind of going up against each other. He believed, they asked him to get surgery late or hold off surgery when he was hurt last year. And then he waited to the last minute to get it because he felt like, the organization kind of lied to him and didn't put his health first. So he's going to miss most of the season probably because he got the surgery hella late. Not to mention he went 2 months without talking to the organization. You really need to figure out. They really need to get that nipped in the bud. When I say nipped in the bud, they need out. The last thing you need right now, which is the Saints, is internal battles. And I say that because, like I said, just Drew Brees not being there is huge. Drew Brees not being there isn't just the offensive problem. It's a team. The team has to revolve. Even I know he's an offensive quarterback, of course, but the team has to adapt to that. Now it changes how the defense, because the defense might be on the field more. The defense might have to run some different schemes because you can't rely on the offense as much as you used to. So Drew Brees not being there is huge. The last thing you want is the people that is still there or that are still there. You don't want them in, you want them to be on, they have to be on the same page. They have to be on the same page because this is a new book that they're reading at this point. So the last thing you want to do is go into it with not only your quarterback that's been, there for years upon years upon years, the future Hall of Fame quarterback. You also, now you don't know what's going on with your all-pro wide receiver. Especially when the offense pretty much revolves around him and Alvin Kamara. Now, it's going to have to. And if he's not there, the load, like I said, is going to be put more on Alvin Kamara. And, of course, Jawan Johnson, Taquan, it's I don't know, man. It's like I said, Traquan Smith. The last thing you want is your two best players at this point, one of them not being there due to and not being happy. I don't know. I don't know what went on between the organization and Michael Thomas. Only Michael Thomas and the organization knows. And of course, Michael Thomas has been liking tweets and Instagram pictures and stuff, pretty much bashing the Saints. So I don't know if the relationship can be fixed. I don't know if Michael Thomas is going to get traded. I don't know. But I do know that that's one thing that you need to get situated, especially before the season slips away from you. Because the thing about this, outside of the number one team in this division, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, the division is up for grabs, at least for 2 on. And with the extra team going into the playoffs and the extra game, the NFC South used to be one of the creme de la creme of NFC divisions. I mean, Drew Brees, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan. Now you have Tom Brady, but the last thing you want to do is get left behind because there are other divisions and other teams. The Saints still have a great defense. You still have Cam Jordan. You still have some really good defensive players. You still have Malcolm Jenkins, even though he's kind of on his last leg. But they still have a good. I mean, you have Marcus Lattimore, so you still have a great defense. So that defense can carry you, along with, of course, and no pun intended, Alvin Kamara running the ball. They can still carry you to the playoffs. So the last thing you want to do is have internal fighting with your star player at this point, or one of your star players at this point, which is Michael Thomas, and you not know what's going on. So there's a lot of question marks, in my opinion, with the Saints. And there's also a lot of question marks with the Carolina Panthers. Let's move on to them. There's a lot of question marks because you have, Matt Rule. A year ago, you had Teddy Bridgewater at the helm. Teddy Bridgewater is good. He's a serviceable quarterback, but he's not a quarterback that can really put you over the top. He's a quarterback that can keep you afloat. But I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is really a starting quarterback for the entire season. It's kind of like Matt Ryan. Not Ryan, I'm sorry. It's kind of like Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's what I meant to say. Ryan Fitzpatrick, and we'll talk about the NFC East later on the week or in an upcoming episode, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is not really a starting quarterback for the entire season. And we've seen that he hasn't been good for the entire season. He's good at spurts. He's good at a couple games, but he's not really good for an entire season. And I think Teddy Bridgewater is kind of the same way. Even though you had Robbie Anderson, you had DJ Moore, and you have Christian McCaffrey before he got hurt, but they still finished 5-11 last year. So out goes Teddy Bridgewater, in comes Sam Darnold. And the biggest question mark is for Sam Darnold. We know we know the bad history that Sam Darnold has, especially with the Jets. And a lot of people, including myself, I'm holding out hope. I'm holding out hope that the reason why Sam Darnold was as bad as he was because of the Jets organization. And hell, you're even seeing it right now with Zach Wilson. The season hasn't even started, but you're seeing important players like their wide receiver. You're seeing important players go down left and right. They still don't have a good offensive line. Their defense is still spotty, and of course they have a new coach in Robert Saleh, so we need to see how that goes. But I'm holding out hope that it was the organization that didn't really supply him with the stuff that he needed, was the reason why Sam Darnold was so bad. Now, if that's not the case, if it was mostly because of Sam Darnold, which a lot of people want to say that it is, then Carolina essentially rolled the dice and lost. That's what they're doing. They're rolling the dice. They're rolling the dice just like you don't make the trade that they made, pay him the amount that they paid him if you don't think. Not to mention they don't really have a good backup quarterback. They have I don't even know who their backup quarterback is. So they're pretty much banking it all on Sam Darnold. Again, you still have DJ Moore, you still have Robbie Anderson, two very good wide receivers. You do lose Curtis Samuel, but again, you still have your top two receivers. And, of course, you have Christian McCaffrey coming back from injury. And we all know Christian McCaffrey is one of the best running backs, if not the best running back when healthy in the league. So this is one of those teams where you're going to know early. You're going to know early how good Sam Darnold really is. The schedule's kind of favorable, so there are some wins that could be had there, especially before the trade or before the bye week. So I'll say this: this team is not built to withstand bad quarterback play, and we saw that last year. You have incredible talent around both Teddy Bridgewater and now Sam Darnold. And even with that talent, Teddy Bridgewater was average at best most of the season. And because of that, like I said, they finished 5-11. This team is not built on this team is not built to survive mediocre quarterback play. And what do I mean by that? First and foremost, no NFL team can win a Super Bowl with mediocre quarterback. No NFL team can get to a Super Bowl with mediocre quarterback play. But there are some teams that are built that their quarterback doesn't need to be super incredible to win the game. The Tennessee Titans is one of those teams. Ryan Tannehill can have a bad game, can have a bad few weeks, but because you have the running of Derrick Henry, because you can throw some slant passes to AJ Brown, to Julio Jones, that team can and the defense is pretty bad, but the offensive line is good. That team can win with bad quarterback play I mean, like they can win with bad quarterback play. Of course, they can't win a Super Bowl. They can't get to a Super Bowl with bad quarterback play, but they can win a lot of games with bad quarterback play. The Ravens can win if Lamar Jackson is not playing well. Can they win a Super Bowl? No. But if with Dobbs and Edwards, Mark Andrews was tight end, so he's not really going deep a lot. They can win with bad quarterback play. Yes, you have Christian McCaffrey, but the offensive line isn't strong enough for Christian McCaffrey to lead them to wins like that. Their defense is okay. Their defense is serviceable, but their defense is not the 2015 defense that, of course, propelled them and helped them get to a Super Bowl. So the reason why I said they're banking on Sam Darnold, because if this team does not go, especially with Christian McCaffrey coming off an injury that he had, if Sam Darnold is not good, this team is not good, because you don't have. This team is not built. This team cannot really. Yes, you can maybe win a game, but even like I said, even you saw when Christian McCaffrey was there, he was breaking records. First quarterback to 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing. He was fantasy legend, but they weren't really winning. So. And of course you have a newer coach in Matt Rule, so they're really banking a lot on Sam Darnold, and we definitely have to see. I think Christian McCaffrey will be good, but especially coming off injury, like I said, you don't really want to put a lot on him, especially early. So they're definitely banking on Sam, and I do think Sam Darnold is going to be okay. Again, this is the first time in his career, probably since USC, that he's had a good offensive line, and they even got a lot of offensive line pieces in the draft. This is the first time that he has a good offensive line. He has a really good running back. He has a really good receiving core. So he has a really good tight end. So, like I said, this is really depending on it's really on him. It's really on him, and again, this team is only going to go as far as he takes them, because again, this team is not built. It's not built to withstand a bad quarterback play. So we'll definitely have to see about Sam Darnold. I'm excited to see. I don't know, with the landscape of the league and the landscape of the NFC South, I don't think this team can rival or can make the playoffs. Let me say this. For the Saints, let me go back to the Saints real quick. For the Saints, I'll say they can get to. I can see them winning 8 or 9 games because of the play of Alvin Kamara, and of course we need to see when or if Mike Thomas comes back and how he plays, and of course the quarterback play. But I think because you have Alvin Kamara, who outside of, I guess, Christian McCaffrey, but we have to see how he is. He is the best running back in the division. So I got them winning 8 or 9 games. I have the Panthers. Again, it all depends on Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold is really good and the Sam Darnold that they expect him to be, I can see them winning 9, 10 games. Now, if it's the Sam Darnold that we've seen for the Jets, again, it's probably closer to 5 or 6. And a lot of those 5 or 6 are probably going to come off the backs of Christian McCaffrey in the defense. So we'll see. We'll definitely have to see. Let's go over to the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons is a head-scratching team. It's a head-scratching team because if you look at the Falcons, even let's not just say this year. Let's look at the Falcons since the infamous debacle in the Super Bowl, being up 28-3 and ended up losing that game, which is still incredible even to say. But the Falcons have a former MVP in Matt Ryan. You had, before you trade him, one of the best if not the best wide receiver in the league when healthy, which was Julio Jones. You had Todd Gurley at one time. Now, of course, you had Dan Quinn, and now a lot of that was because, a lot of the reasons why they weren't really that good is because of Dan Quinn. But this team has always had talent. Hell, let's get in the present. Let's come back to the present now. You still have Matt Ryan, who, while a lot of people don't like Matt Ryan, he's still a talented quarterback. He's still one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I'm not saying he's the best, but he's still one of the better quarterbacks. Hell, you even saw last year, he was airing that joint out. Now, yes, they were losing a lot of games, and a lot of times, most of his yards were coming in garbage minutes or when it didn't really count because they were already down. But he was letting that joint go. Like, he was airing it out. And Matt Ryan, like I said, can still give you he can still throw it. You have Calvin Ridley, who, in my opinion, was probably the best number 2 in the league when they had Julio Jones. And I think it's different from I think Calvin Ridley is going to turn into what we expected Juju Smith-Schuster to turn into. Juju Smith-Schuster was incredible. And he is a talented wide receiver, don't get me wrong. But we expected Juju to pretty much turn into, when AB left, we expected Juju to turn into a bona fide number 1 option. And he has not been that. Again, since AB left, I don't believe that Juju has had a 100-yard game, which is crazy. Maybe one, but I don't even think that's the case, honestly. I think he does not have a 100-yard game. Calvin Ridley has been one of the most quietest kept secrets in the NFL. He is one of the better wide receivers in the game, and he's been a number 2. And I understand that things are going to change with Julio being gone, so he's going to start getting the best defender, and coverage is going to start going around him, or is going to start focusing on him. But Calvin Ridley is one of the best route runners, one of the fastest, and he has one of the longer wingspans. He is one of the best wide receivers in the game. Now, again, a lot of this is because he was a number 2 option, but I think because of playing at Alabama and because of the skill set and the talent that he has, and the thing that kind of helped him also is Julio Jones was injured a lot last year and the year before. So because of that, a lot of times the team depended on Calvin Ridley to pick up the slack, and he did that leaps and bounds. Now, again, I understand they didn't win a lot, but they're coming off of 4-12. But Calvin Ridley was incredible. Calvin Ridley was not the reason why they weren't winning. So I think Calvin Ridley is going to be incredible. I think Calvin Ridley is going to have a breakout season. Don't be surprised if, Calvin Ridley is in discussion or is a Pro Bowler this year. Do not be surprised. Calvin Ridley has been the most kept. He's been the most kept secret because of the fact that you're playing next to arguably one of the greatest wide receivers when healthy of all time, and that is Julio Jones. So when you're playing alongside that, of course you're not going to get the shine. Of course you're not going to be a number 1 option, because Julio Jones, wherever he is the number 1 option when healthy. So I understand, who Calvin Ridley. I understand a lot of people may not know who he is like that, but Calvin Ridley is the truth. The only thing that I question about this team, well, 2 things. It's a couple things. Let me say it's a couple things. One thing is their running attack. Their running attack hasn't been good probably since early Devontae Freeman days. That's been a while. I think their running game hasn't been good since the 2016, which was when they went to the Super Bowl. Their running game has been atrocious. And that's even with Todd Gurley there last year. Todd Gurley did get his numbers, but their running game has been god awful, which is why they've thrown the ball a lot. Now, of course, it's also because they have Hayden Hurst, there. You have Calvin Ridley, and you had Julio Jones, but this they've this running game has been garbage. So we need to see, what happens, and if it, because I mean, you can throw the ball as much as you want. Of course, when you have people like Calvin Ridley, when you have people like Matt Ryan, you can let that jump go. You can air it out. But what happens when you really need a running back? What you gonna trust? What Huntley? You're gonna trust Javion Hawkins? You're gonna trust who else? Deontay Foreman. What I'm doing is I'm going down their roster, all the running backs. Hey guys, yeah, that's not good. Their running back position is terrible. So I need to see if that's gonna hold the back, and also their defense last year. And this is with Dan Quinn, who is known is known to be one of the best defensive coaches in the NFL. I mean, he was there with the Legion of Boom and the Seattle, so he's known for his defense. Atlanta's defense had to, last year at least. Let's just speak on last year. Was one of the worst defenses in NFL history. People were having a field day on them. Hell, if I put on some pads and a helmet, I probably can score a touchdown on that defense last year. That's how bad they were. Hell, you remember all the shootouts they were in? Hell, you remember they were up, by like 20, 25 points, or they're up more than 15 points a couple times in the fourth quarter and lost because their defense was just that horrible. It was bad, bro. And they didn't really do much to address their defense. And now I understand, you have a new head coach. I understand that. And I mean, yeah, you have a new head coach. I mean, you have Arthur Smith, cool, but you had a coach who was defensive oriented, and Dan Quinn, I'm sorry, and it didn't work. Now, I do think that he lost the locker room. I do think once you lose a locker room, it's tough to get it back. It's tough. I mean, and let me say this: you ain't getting it back once you lose a locker room. And at that point, I think the coach has to go. But they didn't really do much for the quarterback position. At the defensive position. So I think that this is just going to be another year that Atlanta's defense sucks. And Atlanta is one of the most frustrating teams to predict because, again, they have talent. They have a lot of talent. Matt Ryan, even though a lot of people want to bag on Matt Ryan, a lot of people want to make jokes about Matt Ryan, 28-3 jokes and everything. Matt Ryan is still an okay quarterback. Calvin Ridley is still a really good to great wide receiver. Hayden Hurst is a good tight end. And now we have Kyle Pitts. They have the talent. It's just they just don't be producing. I don't know, man. You have AJ Terrell, so that can help. But I mean, Chris Slayton, cool. Kendall Sheriff, cool. I do want to talk about Kyle Pitts for a second. So Kyle Pitts, rookie tight end for the Saints. For the Atlanta Falcons. Kyle Pitts was the most or the highest graded tight end coming into the league, I think, ever, or maybe since Travis Kelce or something like that. What he did at Florida was incredible. And it kind of goes back to the Jamar Chase and Cincinnati argument. I understand you want to get the best player, right? You lose. Now, I also understand you lose Julio Jones, Julio Jones goes to the tight end or the Titans. And Kyle Pitts, he's not. I mean, I understand he's a tight end, but he is. At least let's speak on Florida. In Florida, he was inarguably the best tight end in college football, and his skill set, especially catching the ball, is so elite that you can arguably say he is a wide receiver. He's just a big wide receiver. There's a question and there's a conversation that can be had that Travis Kelce is arguably the greatest, if not one of the greatest, catching tight ends ever. Now, a lot of that is, of course, the scheme that the Chiefs run, and of course, a lot of that is also Patrick Mahomes. But you can argue that Travis Kelce is one of the best receiving tight ends ever. A lot of scouts are saying that Kyle Pitts can be better than that, can be better than Travis Kelce. If that's the case, hey, do your thing. But, and this is why I said it kind of goes back to Cincinnati and Jamar Chase. I understand that you're losing Julio Jones. I understand that Kyle Pitts was the best available player. But I'm not the only person that saw how bad that defense was last year. And I understand one player is not going to change an entire defense. And one player is not going to lift an entire defense out of the grave. But I don't know. I don't know. Now that I really hear myself saying it, the reason why I think they didn't get a defensive player is because they're not one defensive player away. They're not one defensive player away. So one defensive player wasn't going to. There's not an Aaron Darnold in this draft. There's not a Khalil Mack in this draft. One defensive player ain't changing nothing. However, I think it'd be a little different if you had Micah Parsons. If you had a Patrick Surtain, Now, yes, Kyle Pitts is going to be incredible, but and I understand that because of his offensive skill set, you can run him, of course, as a tight end, but he can also run receiver routes. So I understand that he's a weapon. He's not really much for blocking, but he's a weapon that you can unleash a lot of places. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I probably would have maybe if I was Atlanta, I would have went defense because of how bad their defense is. I understand that one player is not going to save you, but it's a start. Like Jesus. So where do I think Atlanta? How many wins do I think? And this is why this is so hard to predict this team, because it's like, again, you have so many really good pieces, but they had a lot of good pieces last year and they underachieved. I mean, hell, last year they had 4 wins. I think that they can get. I think this team should be a lot better than 4 wins. Again, I think a lot of it is because, the quarterback, the coach, which was Dan Quinn, I think he lost the locker room. I don't think players really wanted to play with him or his coaching staff. I just think that it was just time for him to go, and a lot of players quit. Now, I understand people say, well, they get paid millions of dollars. Hey, I don't know. I do think they just quit and stopped listening to Dan Quinn. So I think if Arthur Smith can get to him, or, if they can rally around Arthur Smith and listen to him, I think this team can win. I mean, with the talent that they have now, their defense is still god awful, but they have to win more than 4 games. I think I'll give them probably 8.5, 9 wins with the talent that they have. Now, again, if you look at the talent they had last year, they should have won 8 to 9 games, and they won 4. So we'll see how that goes. And that's Atlanta. And, of course, the creme de la creme of the NFC South is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, there's not really much you can say about Tampa Bay. Like, Tampa Bay. I think the real question. Okay, so the question isn't, is Tampa Bay the best team in the NFC South? That's no question. The question is, are they the best team in the league? And I think it's an unequivocal yes. Do, I mean, you brought back what 11 out of your you brought back pretty much all your starters. Gives another year for Antonio Brown. Chris Godwin's going to be better. Mike Evans, I think he's one of the most underrated. When we talk about some of the best wide receivers, of course you hear DeAndre Hopkins, you hear Julio Jones, you hear Stephon Diggs. And while those are incredible wide receivers and definitely their name should be up there, a lot of times you don't hear Mike Evans a lot. Now, a lot of that is due to the fact that he was playing, in a system and with a quarterback who was high turnover prone, and that was Teddy Bridgewater. But a lot of that also is because of injury. Mike Evans cannot stay on the field, and it's tough, man. It's tough because they don't need him as much because you have a Scotty Miller, you have Antonio Brown, you have Chris Godwin, but he's a very important cog. And like I said, he's one of the best wide receivers in the game. So he's somebody that you want to have on the field. And when healthy, like I said, he's I'll say when healthy, he can be a top 5 wide receiver in the game. That is Mike Evans. So, I mean, you brought back Leonard Fournette. Gronk is back. Levante David. This team is stacked to the brim. This team, I mean, Devin White, this Ndamukong Suh, this team is JPP. You just keep going. Now, I will say this. The success of this team really, and I know this is weird to say, and I know this has been blasphemy for a while, but the success of this team really is contingent on how good Tom Brady is. And I say that because Tom Brady is going into his 22nd year? 22nd year in the league. And I mean, there were some points last year. Now, I understand that last year was his first year. Of course, some points when they were looking bad, he was still learning the offense. I understand that. And, of course, players were still getting acclimated with him and the new system. I get that. But there were some there. If you look at the Green Bay game, hell, look at let's just stick to the playoffs. He wasn't great in any of those games. He was good. He was serviceable. He was smart. He was a vet. He knew how not to lose the game. But don't get it twisted. The biggest reason, in my opinion, why the Bucs won last year was because of their defense. When you have a Devin White, when you have a Ndamukong Suh, when you have a JPP, when you have a Levante David, those are all incredible players, and they hit their stride at the right moment. After that Saints game, they just took off. And Tom Brady was good last year as far as he was I think last year was one of the first year, or last year, I'm not going to say one of the first years, but last year really showed that it wasn't just his IQ shined more than his arm strength than his physical talent. Because if you again, let's just look at the playoffs. He made some timely plays. He did have a couple deep balls to Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown against Washington, but it was really timely plays, timely first downs, timely check downs. And, they were able to burn clock, and of course they won by 3. With the Saints, he was Tom Brady was not good during the Saints game. It was just Drew Brees was equally not that good, and they were both having a turnover fest. And of course, at the end of the game, the defense for the Bucs stood tall, but Tom Brady understood, all right, I'm not about to win in no shootout. Let me just not at least the fourth quarter. Let me not lose it. I mean, I've been pretty bad the first 3 quarters. The fourth one, let me chill out with these turnovers. And with the Green Bay game, hey, I don't have it. Green Bay, Green Bay really lost that game in 3 plays. The play before half when King got burnt by Scotty Miller, and of course the end of the game. But they also lost because there was a lot of time. I think the Bucs had like 3 turnovers, and each one of those turnovers the Packers couldn't or didn't capitalize. So it's really contingent on how good Tom Brady is, because this team is built around Tom Brady. They have some really good pieces. Like I said, you have Gronk, you have O.J. Howard, you have Leonard Fournette, you have Ronald Jones. Like, you have really good pieces. It really is just how far can Tom Brady take them, and Bruce Arians. Now, again, this team is the best roster in the NFL. Do they have the best player? No. Of course, you can argue Aaron Darnold. You can argue Patrick Mahomes. You can argue Aaron Rodgers. You can argue a lot of players. Tom Brady is not the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion, but he is still one of the best because of how his brain works and his experience, and the way that even though he knows at this point he's not the most physically gifted, like his arm talent isn't always there, his accuracy isn't always there, but his brain is still serviceable, and he's able to make some incredible plays, very timely plays. But don't get it twisted, man. This is the best roster by a long shot. I mean, the Rams are up there. Of course, the Chiefs are up there. The Ravens are up there. The Browns, I think probably the Browns on paper might be the second best roster on paper. But yeah, man, it'll be hard pressed for me. I'm looking at the landscape of the NFC, and spoiler alert, after I do the divisional breakdowns and stuff, of course I'll give my prediction about what happens and seeding and everything. But it'll be hard pressed for me to see a team beat this team, and it's not just because of Brady, but because this is let me say, in the NFC. We'll talk about Super Bowls and everything, but in the NFC, I don't really see a team close to this good. When we get to the North, we could talk about Green Bay, maybe, the Rams, maybe, but I don't see a team that can beat this team as far as an entire team. So, again, it's really contingent on how far Tom Brady takes them. Of course, last year, once they got it rolling and their defense was on fire, they took them and won the Super Bowl. So we'll see how it goes. And, of course, last year they went 11-5. I can see them winning 13 games easily, 13, 14 games, because a lot of those 5 losses was the team was new. They were trying to get acclimated. Of course, we know about the no preseason. Training camp is different. The COVID bubble, missing players. It was not an ideal situation. So even in that, they win 11 games and win a Super Bowl. So I think that they can get to 13, 14 wins easy, in my opinion. So I think if you're ranking the teams right now, I think, of course, the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme of the NFC South is the Tampa Bay, and it's a country mile gap between the first and the second team. And I guess I would say the second team is probably the Saints, because they still have an incredible defense. You still have Alvin, Kamara. And, of course, we need to figure out what happened, or we need to find out what happens with Mike Thomas. Then I guess I'll say, and I say, that's tough, man, because I don't know the Atlanta we're going to get. Honestly, if we're going to get the best Atlanta team that we can get, that should be the second best team, but we haven't gotten that in a while. So I'm going to go Atlanta just because, Calvin Ridley and they have a new coach, Matt Ryan, they do need to figure out what happens with their running game. They need to figure out or find some way to have a better defense. So I'll say Atlanta. And then because we don't know about Sam Darnold and what Sam Darnold we're going to get, and of course we need to figure out how is Christian McCaffrey going to be coming back. Never mind. I'm going to say because Christian McCaffrey is probably the best player or best player between Carolina and Atlanta. So I'm going to say Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to say all right, Tampa Bay, wide margin, the Saints, then Carolina Panthers, then Atlanta Hawks. I'm sticking to it. That's the NFC South. Next episode, I will break down another NFC team. But yeah, that's what I got. And I think if I stay here too long, I'm gonna keep flip flopping between Atlanta and the Browns. The Panthers. Never mind. No, I'm not, because the Panthers have a way better defense than than Atlanta. Not to mention, right now Atlanta has really one wide receiver that what you're going to get out of, which is Calvin Ridley. Of course, we need to see what happens with Kyle Pitts. And I know he's a tight end, but he's good enough to really play receiver. So, and the Panthers, they have two serviceable people. You have DJ Moore. You have Rodney Hood. You have Robbie Anderson. So, I'm going to go with the Panthers, and then the last team is the Atlanta Hawks. So, moving forward, and the last thing I'm going to talk about is, so, of course, we all saw the Kevin Durant, Draymond Green sit down. The Draymond Green interviewed Kevin Durant for his podcast called Chips. First and foremost, that was an incredible interview that Draymond Green did. I did like the fact that, Kevin Durant seemed like he was comfortable. They talked about everything from the infamous argument that took place against the Clippers. They talked about, winning 2 championships together. Kevin Durant leaving OKC to go to Golden State. Kevin Durant leaving Golden State to go to Brooklyn. Talked about, everything. Kids, life, family. It's 2 friends that were having a conversation. And of course, the biggest bombshell, I guess, that came out of that interview was Draymond Green asked Kevin Durant straight up, was our argument that we had against the Clippers the biggest reason or the main reason why you left? And of course, Kevin Durant said, no, that wasn't it. It was because of management. It was because of Ballmer. It was not Ballmer. It was because of Steve Kerr. It was because of how management kind of tried to sweep it under the rug. They disciplined Draymond Green. And they just didn't like the way it was handled. Kevin Durant referenced The Last Dance when Scottie Pippen was in the playoff game and he didn't want to go, or he refused to go in, and everybody pretty much killed him when they went to as in the team pretty much killed him as they went to the locker room. I'll say this. It was an incredible interview. I'm not here critiquing the interview. What I am going to do is critique the answer. First and foremost, I don't know what you expect. I'm all for the players, man. But I don't know what you expect management. I will say this. I do think that management could have handled it a better way, as far as let them handle it or let the players handle it. You don't have to discipline Draymond. You don't have to demand him to apologize, whatever. But this is where accountability comes in, First and foremost, Draymond Green also, I don't know if you guys caught this, but he even said before or after the second season, you can tell KD was done. You can tell KD was out. That was even before the argument. That was before the blow up during the Clippers in the regular season. Draymond Green could feel that Kevin Durant just didn't feel like being there anymore. He was out. And even Kevin Durant said, yeah, I was pretty much on the fence, or I pretty much knew that, I wanted a new journey. I wanted a new place to play. I wanted a new challenge. So while if you want to put in percentage, I think that going into the third season with Kevin Durant and Golden State, I think Kevin Durant was probably 80% like, yeah, I'm probably done. And then I think that, the incident probably was like confirmation, like, oh yeah, I'm definitely done. But it wasn't just the fact that Draymond Green or the management didn't do anything better. Again, the management wasn't the one that was out there. The management wasn't Draymond Green cursing you out, calling you this, that, and the third because you wanted the ball. So, I mean, I don't really subscribe to the fact that you want to blame management for that, because again, what is Steve Kerr supposed to do? What is Bob Myers supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? Like, Draymond Green was the one that was yelling and stuff. So that's y'all two to figure out. Like, what are they supposed to do? And of course, when you're a franchise player and everyone on the team knows that you're pretty much on the fence about staying or going, of course the organization is gonna. Yes, it's Steph Curry's team, but you're the best player on the team, so of course they're gonna cater to you. Every single team you see. Every single team, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball, whether it's hockey, they cater to the best players. Hell, whether it's college, you cater to the best players. So, of course, Bob Myers and Steve Kerr is going to cater to Kevin Durant and try to make it seem, try to do everything to make Kevin Durant happy. I mean, he's the best player on the team. So, I wouldn't really blame management for that. For the whole blow up and how they handle it, because they will handle like any other body would handle. Like, yo, let's try to make Kevin Durant happy. Want him to stay. Now, I will say this. And Kevin Durant pretty much, I think, hit the nail on the coffin, man. People are still upset about him going to Golden State. And I think it's because, well, one is because he left OKC for a team that beat them in the playoffs, and people don't like that, which I understand. But this was the first time that I can remember. Now, again, I wasn't alive during the prime of the Bulls era, or I wasn't really, I wasn't cognizant enough to know what was going on. I wasn't really I kind of understood, but they lost, the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe. But this was the first time in a while. This was the first time in a while that you looked at a team and there was absolutely no weaknesses. And you knew there was no chance they were losing unless they just completely broke down, which they did the last year against Toronto. There was no way that they were going to lose. Hell, when we talk about the Golden State Dynasty, which was between 2000, even before, which was between 2015 and 2019, which was the 4 or 5 years that they were there. The dynasty that they had. 15, they win a championship. 16, they lose. 17, they win a championship. 18, they win a championship. 19, they lose because everyone falls apart. Steph Curry got hurt. KD got hurt. Clay got hurt. Boogie got hurt. That team, that run, they were the greatest. Well, let me just say, with KD, they were the greatest offense that I think has ever played in the NBA. Now, I understand you can do the Showtime Lakers, and you can look at the Rockets, 2018, 19. You can look at the Celtics back in the day with Bill Russell. But I think that this was the greatest. I think that Golden State was the greatest offense we've ever seen. I mean, you had three of the arguably greatest, or two of the greatest shooters ever, and then one in Kevin Durant, who can do everything. And it's kind of like Alabama, man. People hate Alabama, but they don't just hate Alabama because it's Alabama. They hate Alabama because they're just so freaking good. Like, look at the league right now. Look at the NFL. You have Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Derrick Henry, Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts. There's so many players, great, really good players right now from Alabama. People, hell, and you remember we saw what happened last year? Alabama, they just ran through everyone, even in the national championship, beating Ohio State badly, and Justin Fields. So people don't like a villain. Well, people say they like a villain. They need a villain, but they don't like a villain, especially when Golden State is full of likable people. Nobody wants to dislike Kevin Durant. Nobody wants to dislike Clay. Nobody wants to dislike Steph. But when you look at them, it's like, yo, that's Jesus. Like there was teams literally saying, we're just gonna wait this run out because there's no way we can beat them. The teams that tried went up. The Rockets, they tried. They did their dance, and they almost did it if it wasn't for CP3 hurting his hamstring and then them missing 27 straight threes. And don't get me wrong, I understand the Toronto ones, but everyone knows if Golden State was completely healthy, they would have three-peated. So, of course, Kevin Durant hit it right on the nose, man. People would have, people still I think the narrative with Kevin Durant changed that day. And Kevin Durant went from one of the most likable people in the league to the most hated. And people still have not forgiven him for making the decision that was best for his career. Because imagine if he was where he is today with no rings. We'll be talking about him the same way we talk about Melo, the same way we talk about Chris Paul, the same way we talk about T-Mac, the same way we talk about Charles Barkley. Like, that's and Kevin Durant's better than all of them. So imagine the scrutiny he'd get, especially after playing with someone like Russell Westbrook and James Harden. So I don't fault him at all, and I think he hit the nail right on the coffin. Now, also, I did hear them say that they were the greatest dynasty ever. I don't think that winning just there has to be winning in there. Of course, if we talk about from 2015 to 2019, they win 3 championships, 15, 17, and 18. And I do think that you can put that dynasty up against the best of them, but I will say that they did arguably have probably their dynasty was not better than the Bulls dynasty. Don't get me wrong. Their dynasty probably wasn't better than the three-peat. No, I could say that they were better than three-peat Lakers just because the Lakers pretty much banked on Shaq and Kobe, which, of course, that it's easy to do that. That's Shaq and Kobe. Golden State, you had if KD was having a bad day, you had Steph Curry. If Steph Curry was having a bad day, you had someone like Klay Thompson who can give you 36 points in a quarter. If that wasn't working, you have Draymond Green who can give you a triple-double easily. Like they had all the pieces. So I do think that it is one of the best dynasties ever. I don't think it's the greatest. I wouldn't put that up against the Bulls, but and then lastly, I heard Draymond Green said we probably went, or I don't remember if it was Draymond Green or Kevin Durant, but they said they win they said they win 5 straight championships. No. I will say they had the talent, but anything can happen on basketball. And as we saw, injury derailed them winning 3 straight. Of course, it's hard playing with people. That's why look at the Bulls. At the Bulls, what's his name? Michael Jordan had to retire twice. Like it's tough. And of course, you had 2 3-peats, but you didn't have 5 in a row. You didn't have 6 in a row. So I don't know about that. But hey, shouts out to Kevin Durant. Shouts out to Draymond Green for an incredible interview. And yeah, man, it was informative and it was good. I've never been one to bash Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is still arguably in my opinion. Kevin Durant is a top 10 player of all time, in my opinion. I don't mind arguing. You can leave in the comments. Kevin Durant is a top 10 player all time, in my opinion. And I never faulted him for going to Golden State. I think that was the perfect system for him, and he did what he wanted to do, and he did what he was trying to do, and that was win championship. So, shouts out to them. But there you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. Hey, man, we getting this thing rolling. We almost at 200, bro. That's crazy. But if you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple colors, multiple designs. Hey, whatever your taste is, I got you. Whatever design you like, whatever color you like in that design, I got you. Just go to the website and go get you some merch. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and all you guys subscribe. Now that's what? Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. That's 4 subscribers right there. That's 4 closer to 1,000. So hey, help me. But again, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and until next time, much love.